All right, I declare this meeting of the Pagosa Area Water and Sanitation District on this Thursday, January the 30th, 5 p.m. to be open. A call to order. All right, roll call. Bill. Here. Glenn.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Al.
Here.
I'm here. Everybody's here. Consideration. Anything need to be brought up about that?
I would like to bring one thing up. Can everyone hear me? I'm having
Yes, we can.
microphone issues. You know what? I would like to move that we defer consideration of agenda item number 11, the consideration of revisions to PAWSD bylaws, to the May regular meeting after the election and a new board is established, and so that they can choose what bylaws and they'd like to operate under and what offices and powers they'd like to give to the offices. And I think that would be a prudent thing to do and kind of would be in line with what we did about affordable housing.
Glenn, the reason we have that on there is not to change the bylaws, but just clarify how we've been interpreting those bylaws.
But there are considerable changes, and I think they're fundamental changes. Whether one agrees with them or not, I think if you're going to make fundamental changes to the power of a board and individual board members, one, you shouldn't do it in an election season. You shouldn't do it repeatedly, changing it up to 3 hours before a meeting. And I would prefer to have an election. We're technically in the election season now. And then in May, the board can look at the bylaws and make whatever changes they wish to make. I mean, they haven't been changed in 7 years. It's not that critical unless...
No, it is critical, but we can discuss it at that time. We don't have to change the bylaws, but we have to put down some ground rules of how the board contacts our staff. So right now is unacceptable.
I think our board can vote on Glenn's motion to adjust the agenda.
We need a second, and Glenn, is that a motion?
Yeah, well, I think I did say I move to defer consideration of the revisions to the PAWSD bylaws until, at the earliest, the May regular meeting when the new PAWSD Board of Directors takes office. I think that's a very prudent thing to do. I'd rather not fight about some of these things, but...
Do you also mention the change to item number 6, that it's not going to be an executive session about the Webbers, but rather an executive session about the Running Iron Ranch? Would you add that?
I would keep that separate. That's fine. That would be a nice, I would like to consider that. But I'd really just like to, the idea that these are not profound changes let me point out something about changes to the bylaws. A board of directors can approve a $100 million bond issue, 2-to-1. A board of directors can approve amazingly large and long-lasting projects 2-to-1. Board of directors can't change the bylaws unless every single director is present. Okay, that's how important changes to the bylaws are. Okay, the scrutiny is higher than a $100 million bond issue, and I don't want to change it based on like revisions I didn't see until 2 or 3 hours before the meeting. I think that's really not the way to go about this. So
I'll second your motion.
Okay, the motion's been made, seconded. Now I'm opening up for more discussion. Gene, what do you think?
Having a little trouble with audio, but I know I have made suggestions in the past and have been told, and I guess agree with what's in the revisions to the bylaws that, being a former staff member, I know all of the the things that are sometimes put on staff. So I have no problem considering it at today's meeting.
Alex, what do you think?
I think it was dropped on us a little quick. I think that we need some more time to review it. I do like the idea. We're going into an election season. We've got 3 open seats, and these are changes. And so I'm in agreement.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree.
Okay, so yeah, there's 3 of you, 3 of them. Okay, let's vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
For lack of discussion, I'll oppose for now, I guess.
2 3 to 1, the motion carries. We'll put it off.
Okay.
All right, now then, I want to
Thank you, Glenn.
thank you, Glenn.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, I want to go consideration of an executive session to discuss the update on the confidential meeting that was held with our attorneys, the conservations.
Are we going to skip public comment?
We're going to do real quick is the next agenda item you'd like to change is 6 to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, to this.
Oh, so we're not moving to that?
No.
Okay, I was
This
confused.
considered, yeah, this, and that would be with the attorneys of the Conservancy District and their president and 2 of our board members that met on January the 16th. I want that to be changed for what was in the
Okay.
package.
Okay,
Everybody agree?
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, now we're ready for public comment. Anybody from public want to comment on anything?
Are we gonna approve the minutes?
Yeah,
That's before public comment.
yeah. Well, I didn't have my minutes. Does everybody read the minutes that they had from last week?
Wait. Chairman Smith, may I interrupt you? We had a last minute revision from the attorneys on some language in the minutes that they needed for their purposes. And so if I may, I'd like to request that those get tabled until the February 13th meeting, please.
That's fine.
I moved to table that until the next meeting.
Second. Motion's been made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried unanimous. All right, now we've got public comment. Is anybody here from the public? Joe, any comment?
No comments.
Okay, no comment.
Online?
Online? No comments.
No comment from me, thank you.
All right. Next, I'd like to consider we go into an executive session. I'd like a motion on this that we'll just hear the update on the confidential meeting held on January the 16th with our attorneys and the Conservancy's attorneys and their representative and our representative. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'm gonna read it. I move that we go into an executive session to discuss the Running Iron Ranch pursuant to CRS
No,
We're
section.
not gonna do run on.
We're not gonna do that one.
We're gonna discuss.
We're not gonna discuss
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry, no, you are right, you're right. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. You're right, never mind.
Running Iron Ranch, the subject matter pursuant to CRS section 246402-4A concerning the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property interest, comma, CRS section 246402-4B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions from the district's general counsel on the subject matter, comma, and CRS section 246402-4EI to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with respect to the subject matter.
I'll second that.
Okay, this Marcus, to be clear, the agenda I'm looking at is to discuss a proposed final lease extension to the Webbers of Running Iron Ranch. Is that what we're talking about?
No. That's not the motion.
Okay, I am not seeing the executive session that you just articulated on the agenda for tonight's meeting. So where am I?
Am I right that in changing it to Running Iron Ranch as the subject matter, that opens up discussions related to the meeting between our board and San Juan and their respective lawyers, and also a possible lease extension, that it kind of, basically it comprehends both. It's
Both of them.
Okay,
If as a lawyer you'd like them called out individually, I'm happy to call it out individually.
It's like, Marcus, is that allowable? Since we didn't specifically say anything about that meeting.
it would have been preferable if you had put it in your agenda, if you intended to have an executive session to talk about it. The standard is whether that information was reasonably available at the time the agenda was promulgated. Not good practice to change the subject matter of the executive session from the agenda to the meeting.
Okay, well then we can put that off till next meeting then.
Well,
Sure.
Marcus, we were told this was a typo.
I'm not following. It was a typo?
We were
Still not-
told it was
still
a
not-
typo.
still
It
not
was
on
supposed to say the Running Iron Ranch.
Still not on the agenda though, typo or not, so I don't know.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, I mean, look, there's pending litigation. If you guys want to talk about negotiations with San Juan, my recommendation to you would be make sure that executive session topic gets on the agenda, and then we can talk about it.
sure, that's fine. I mean, the other point is that Kendall isn't here anyway, so I think for next steps, we need about as much guidance as we can get. So I think if we want to read out this specifically and deal with the lease specifically, but the understanding that at a future meeting, we're going to discuss the board authorized sale of Running Iron Ranch and the meeting, that's fine by me.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
So Marcus, Justin said earlier that he didn't think we needed to go into executive session to discuss the Weber lease.
That would not be my recommendation. There are some things that I want to say to you guys in executive session that constitute legal advice that are appropriate.
okay.
Okay, so I withdraw my motion and I will read this. I move we go into an executive session to discuss a proposed final lease extension with the Webers of Running Iron Ranch, the subject matter pursuant to CRS section 246402-4A concerning the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property interest, CRS section 246402-4B, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions from the district's general counsel on the subject matter, and CRS section 246402-4EI to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with respect to the subject matter.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're going into an executive session. Joe, come back later.
Yeah, smoke signal or something.
Are you gonna be in the parking lot?
I will be in the parking lot.
What car is yours?
The truck, red truck.
Okay,
I'll grab it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
Give me 1 second.
get everybody off.
Good.
Okay, we're ready. Marcus, we're ready. Go. Take a break. We'll take a 2-minute break. Or half fast.
Glenn, did you mean to leave your refrigerator door open?
No, that's just the backup. Just use that as a pot rack, and the refrigerator's off to the left.
All right, just checking.
It's easier. This is my son's house. I'm helping rehabilitate. It's easier than trying to carry it down 4 flights of stairs.
I
So,
hear you.
yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Gene,
Yes.
I, I hate to think that, hey, how you doing? I hate to think that, that we're gonna lay this on Justin to come up with a PowerPoint. Do you wanna work with me and do we find somebody that can help with that, something like that together?
If the board chooses, I'd be happy to. I've done quite a few of them. I know you've done many as well. So if that's the board's desire, I'd be happy to.
I figure if we could just put something out, however they make it. You want to that, it saves you.
You're not rooting for Kansas City, are you?
No, no. This is the third year in a row that I get to do that.
Is the coffee hot?
There's not any coffee.
No coffee?
The last of it, it's not very hot.
It's not very hot.
It's not as good when it's not hot.
Yeah, third year. Hope I get to go 4. Well, this hat's been around a long time.
How much money you got on the game this year?
Oh, done.
Spend all this money paying off those refs. It always comes down to a couple inches and they seem to get the refs on their side every time.
We've had 12 games and we went on the last 30 seconds.
Keep your blood pressure up all the way to the end of the game. You know?
Well, what are you worried about? They always win with 30 seconds left. Quit worrying. Oh, we'll declare this meeting open again. Now then, we're down here to consideration of resolution 2025-01, Board of Directors annual posting for meetings. Who covers that?
Do we have to do number 7? Justin?
What is number 7?
Lease extension.
We talked about it in the executive session, but.
Well, you want to vote on it, yes, move forward with.
You want to vote on that?
Yeah, okay, to move, and actually what we're gonna wanna do probably is present it to the San Juan for them, and then once they're happy with it, then we'll present it to the Webbers.
Yeah, can we,
Go ahead.
if you're comfortable with that, or we could put it on for the 13th, I guess, too. But
Could I
indirect
just,
staff to provide those exhibits to the Webbers? Or I guess, how do you want to proceed with next steps there?
what about if I move just to direct staff to provide the draft of the Running Iron Ranch lease extension to both the San Juan Water Conservancy District and the Webbers for their review, comment, and feedback?
I'll second that. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's get into this posting of the meetings. Renee, you want to do that?
Certainly. So this is the annual meeting resolution for posting for meetings. It just provides how we go about posting for our meetings for the year. Does anybody have any questions?
No, do we have to vote on that? I guess
Yes,
we do.
please, sir.
Well, we need a motion that we'll meet every second Thursday.
To adopt resolution 2025.
Not resolution, yeah.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I would like to make a motion regarding annual postings for meetings, resolution 2025-01.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And Renee will do this next one, consideration of resolution 2025-02, calling for the 2025 regular district election and appointing a designated elected official, election official. My question is, can you be the election official, Renee?
Would you like me to be the election official, designated election official?
Yes.
Do you have, again, do you have someone, didn't we line up someone to do this last time?
Renee.
I thought one of these elections, we had lined up another person to handle this. Because I don't mind at all lining up another person to handle this. Because these elections are not time consuming until they're all time consuming, like 2010 and 12, and and we could get one, and do we want to hire somebody to do this?
We can certainly look into that.
It's not like I'm not hearing legit frustration about wearing multiple hats, and then we go to these meetings and we volunteer for, which is commendable, to wear more hats, but let's maybe just have somebody do this, and Renee can focus on getting grants and run the district. And because it can be this, if this is a contentious election, this is a contentious, even when it's not time consuming, it's it's contentious. You carry it. You have interactions with people who think you're cheating them out of it. 2012 was a hoot if you didn't have to actually live it. Anyway, that's my suggestion. Is I'm very happy to pay for professional work here.
Renee, what is your opinion on this?
So in order to file the call for elections notice, which I had planned to notice in the February 6th edition of the Sun, I would submit that tomorrow by 11 to go in the legals. That has a calendar deadline for when that needs to be submitted. The self-nomination and acceptance forms need to be, that form just needs to be approved tonight so that I can begin handing those out to folks, those who request them. I certainly don't mind being the designated election official. I'm happy to do it. It is a lot of work once you do actually if you do actually have an election, but I'm happy to do it.
It is something that
I'm just trying to think. Trying to track someone down, and then we should probably approve. I don't know. Depending on the direction that you want to go, we should adopt the resolution with me as at the very least the interim designated election officials, so that we don't miss any of the calendar deadlines.
Okay. Well, if we did that, and let's say
Renee does the decision on who is. Renee, having some internet issues here, but if you can hear me, is the decision of who the election official is, does that have to be made tonight?
You're starting to run up against your calendar deadlines, so I do not recommend we wait until the 13th because the last day.
Okay, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah,
Make-
that's why
Okay.
you wanted, if you would prefer to have someone else do it for you, I could be the interim and then we could change that. Or I could just, you can make me the designated election official and I could be in charge of hiring it out to somebody else and they're just a deputy and we could accomplish it that way too.
Sure, and that way, if there's only 3 people put in, then it's one type of election. But then if it becomes 7 people running, then you can,
Do
get
what
some
you need to do.
deputies that can handle, some of that load.
I like that.
Yeah, let's have a motion to do it like that.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I'd like to move that we approve. Go ahead, Renee. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Oh, I wasn't going
unless my
to
audio's cutting out.
but yeah.
I'd like to make a
Okay,
motion
just
that
to
we
adopt
approve.
the resolution.
I think you said go ahead, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-02, calling for a 2025 regular district election and appointing a designated election official.
I'll second.
And approving the related election documents, please.
And approving the related election documents.
Thank you.
And I second
Bill
the
seconded.
addition.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, man, let's see, consideration of a draft customer letter.
Well, these are rules and regulations.
We decided we.
No, we're not doing 11, but we're still doing 10.
Consideration of resolution to PAWSD rules and regulations. Yeah, you had these rules and regulations been here for, I guess, many years, right?
Just the beginning of.
So there's a few corrections that Renee found she wanted to do.
I would move to adopt the revisions to the rules and regulations as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more
Second.
discussion?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Like in 1014 where we had required the modeling for 4 EUs, and now we're going to require the that would be like any EUs above what you're, like if you're paying 1 availability and you're building 1 EU house, that's fine, because you're already in the model. But if you want 2, then you're subject to this. Or if you're not on availability and you have nothing and you're going to build 1, that's kind of the deal.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, do we want to give the district engineer some latitude here in case something is being built in an area which is so obviously overbuilt and doesn't, is that something we want to give, Justin, the latitude to say, maybe there's a lot in an area which isn't paying availabilities but is now coming on and it's like, it's no brainer. There's just a ton of capacity there. Or
But it's not even really very plain availability or not. So the model that we run assumes 1 EU per lot unless we know there's more there. So we went 5 years ago or 10 years ago and bought 40 EUs and it's 40 EUs.
Okay.
Assumes the models run like it's all built out. So if you add more, they have to add a different model. The model's wrong. So that's what that and I already do have some latitude. For instance, as we know with the wastewater, we're requiring some repairs to give us extra capacity, even if they already have an EU, whether they have to do a model or not, because we know anecdotally that line is not. You gotta make capacity, and here's how we're gonna make you make capacity, so we.
All
There's
right,
Like you
You
did
got
for
a,
the stuff that's going on.
got a
about-
question, Justin?
Sure.
Justin, I've got a question. How does fire flow calculate into the modeling? Because as we all know, fire flow far exceeds any residential uses. Is that considered in the modeling?
Yes, it is. So when they fill out their modeling form, they put in what their fire flow needs to be, and that fire flow comes usually from the fire department, but it could come from a mechanical engineer. And it's in there. So we don't select what the fire flow is. It's told to us basically by the developer, but it's given to them from the fire department or the. And
Thank
it
you.
always.
And that change in there is to capture the circumstances where we get a model request that doesn't have fire flow, and they provide to us that the fire department said they didn't need it, but then the fire department changes their mind. And that's happened. So then we reserve the right to require the model be rerun with the proper fire flow included.
And hopefully that happens before any development agreements are signed, right?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you're trying to build in as much indemnification or protection for the district, given the kind of very immature kind of regulatory environment about fire flow, and so that I think that's very smart to do that. So.
Well, thank you. There's also some folks that just are not as forthcoming about the facts of their projects. So
Yeah.
we've experienced that as well.
But we do already require a letter or something in writing from the fire department on every project. And we would not proceed forward unless we had that, correct?
No, we don't ask a letter. They fill out the form. If they
Yeah.
are honest, it's at their peril.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, other than commercial developments, we've been asking you to give us a standard, and we'll apply the standard. We're not the fire experts, but if you give us but as in that case of that minor subdivision inclusion or extension, it's again a lot of time and effort to try and get a number, and you don't get one.
Yeah, Justin, I guess I missed your answer to that last question. What'd you say about a form?
They're gonna do a model, they have to fill out a form that basically explains what they're building, and in that form, there's a question that says, is fire flow necessary? If yes, what is it? If they are dishonest or they didn't go to the fire department, they're doing that at their peril. They're gonna sign this form saying, oh, you're true and correct. And
Could
so
we change the form to say we cannot proceed unless we have in writing something from the fire department saying no fire flow needed?
I don't want to do that because that's going to turn us into a fight. Because they're going to say, fire department won't give it to me, or they will give it to me, or they let them fight with the fire department. I don't want to fight with the fire department. If they're dishonest, they're dishonest. I don't know if we need to hold their hand.
Yeah, but it seems like if we do that and they are dishonest and a year or two later something happens, aren't we putting ourselves at risk?
Yeah, no, because they signed it saying that everything was correct.
But how would we stop construction on, a project that we found out later that was not compliant?
That's the fire department's job. We don't.
Okay, I got you. If they're not compliant, the fire chief says,
Yeah,
stop all you're doing, and that's enforceable.
yeah. What's gonna happen, if we
Okay.
do it, at some point, they're gonna say, we don't do letters for this type of property, and it's gonna put us in a really weird spot, so let's let the fire department be the fire department, and we'll be the water department.
That makes sense.
Anything else? Everybody ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next on the agenda was consideration of a draft customer letter. This is what she was presenting, that y'all didn't work on, and she was kind of, what do y'all think about it?
Well, I just have a comment, I guess, or a suggestion.
Yeah.
On the first bullet where it says Hatcher Water Treatment Plant, Bill and I have talked a fair amount about this, and I'm a big believer in let's keep it simple, stupid. And when I see 0.072 million gallons per minute, our customers aren't going to understand that. But that old water boy water treatment plant, which is smaller than the table you guys are sitting at right now, up at Hatcher, was capable of 25 gallons a minute. So I think we ought to put it in terms of, keeping it a little bit simpler, keep it from millions to millions of gallons to gallons per minute. And then on the fifth bullet down, talked about the emergency response plan. That's true, it was created in 2008, but I think Andy Connor updated it in 2022, I think. So I think that ought to be put in there to let them know, it wasn't just written once and shelved, it's been modified. And then under the Stevens Lake enlargement bullet, unless I'm missing something, we did add a 1 million gallon potable water storage tank, but we also enlarged the reservoir from X to much more than X, which enhances our water storage right. So I think it might be important just to, add that little piece in there.
Yeah, I think to the extent you can give people like a big picture. I mean, I don't know what purpose this particular, I could see this going on the website and maybe being linked to, you click through it if you're really interested in some of these things, and, to either articles about it, which have been written and are out there, or short descriptions of different projects. I think in the big picture sense, I think once you get, if we're going to have a marketing campaign or an informational campaign, pulling it all together. So basically people need to know we're selling the same amount of water in 2025 that we were selling at the beginning of the century. And our actual capacity to produce water has gone from whatever it was, 2.5 million to 7 million, easily expandable to 9 million. It's like, oh, wow. And our average sales are 1.3 million a day, and we have 7 million capacity and can easily expand to 9 million. And then to say, and our average annual sales are, say, 1,200 acre feet. And we have essentially 4,500 acre feet of storage, pretty easily expandable to 5,300 when we plumb. So they can see, oh, we sold 1,200 acre feet of water in 2000. We're still selling pretty much 2,000 acre feet of water, and our storage is now 400% of that. I think there's a good story in the big picture, and then to have this very intelligent historical approach bullet pointed, and people can click through it if they want to be water rats, and you never know, what'll interest people. I don't know if this is intended for our website, and then, which would be, I think it's a good kind of foundation to build off of, a lot of history there.
Well, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I would think website and maybe Pagosa Sun ad if we need to pay for it, or wherever else. And Glenn, I think you hit the nail on the head. You said the word picture several times. I think that graphic that we have that showed originally the water that the engineers thought we would need and what we're actually using now, a picture tells 1,000 words. I like to follow the KISS principle because a lot more people, including myself, will understand it, I think.
Yeah, I think an ad would be 2 or 3 very accurate, but really striking graphics with 6 or 7 bullet points that are highly accurate, but big picture, and people can really. But I think also the kind of to lay out the history of how that's been done in a very programmatic way, and I think we do have to tell the story that the previous board, earlier than anyone in the state, I say Four Corners, but it's really the state, put in place the most aggressive water conservation pricing in the West, really, in 2002. And we have not changed that. And we've had board members who ideologically didn't love it and came around to saying, yeah, we got to have this. And we put in place, and we may have, we may be actually implementing it sooner than anybody would like, a very proactive, very forward-looking water conservation response plan. We no longer wait until September to go into stage 2 meaninglessly because we're going to get back into 4 Mile and then we'll get snow. We may be going to stage 3 in April, so I think we should emphasize those things that we've done too. And that's the we've done them, but really the district customers have done them. They're the ones who have been conserving water. So that we're selling the same amount of water with, depending on how you want to count it, 40% to 45% more customers. And that's, we like to say we did that, but the customers, the we means the customers did that. So I think we do have a good case to make.
So I liked everything that Glenn just proposed, and I'd love to sit down with the subcommittee and kind of encapsulate those and work up a graphic or two, and then decide, does this get mailed to people? Does this get put in the sun? We do have a subcommittee to work on this, and I'd like to put them to work.
I have a question. Could we put that with the water bill and not cost any more for our postage or not?
Well, it would increase our postage, but not.
Not much,
It'd be cheaper.
but don't most people pay online?
I know everybody my age pays online.
Oh, okay.
There's probably 50/50.
Yeah, there's no bang for the buck in the monthly invoice. But my concern, Bill, with your suggestion is that's going to delay it maybe another month. I think it needs to go out sooner than that. Renee, did you have a question?
I do, Jean. What was your third bullet? There was the change to gallons per minute. There's the figure out the date the emergency response plan was updated. And then you had a third comment.
I don't know which bullet it is, but you go down 2 or 3 more and it says Stevens Lake enlargement.
Okay.
If we put what it was and what it is now, that might.
Oh, okay. You got it.
In addition to the 1 million gallon tank, yeah.
You got it. Okay.
I really like the concept that rather than this being about pause, and Glenn brought this up, rather than this letter being about pause, this letter being about pause customers. Thank you, pause customers, for supporting these changes, and really make it about them.
Yeah, paying for Stevens.
Paying for Stevens, paying for the Dutton ditch enclosure. You paid for this, and these are the benefits you got from it. I really like that approach as a marketing piece, that we thank the customers who have made this all possible. And so I don't know if Jean agrees with that, but I really like that idea.
No,
I
do
Sorry.
agree with that, and I think maybe all of you know that the Conservancy District helped pay for Stevens and the Dutton Ditch enclosure. So we're thanking them too, whether they know it or not.
I wrote one of those too, because Glenn and I had discussed that in the fall. But Justin really did not like the way that I wrote that. So, but if the full board would like to see that, and then the Running Iron Ranch subcommittee could take that, I guess, and do with that what they'd like to.
No, I was talking about the marketing subcommittee is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So the question is, when can y'all get?
Well, real quick, before we go that way, with the changes that we're requesting, it seems like that data is pretty well available. Yeah, we could just do it and be done with it without getting a subcommittee.
Yeah, let's be clear. Like the board didn't delegate; they delegated the task of the PR campaign to Bill and Jean. A whole new subcommittee was not created. I just want to make sure we stay clear. If that's the intent of the board to create a new subcommittee to do that, then let's do that. But it was just a task delegated.
I'm not sure if the subcommittee is necessary.
Well, they've already met. Don't know.
Yeah, we met twice.
They met
To work on
twice.
this
And we got the data, so I think that's why we
That's why we got
that's why we got the data, so why don't we just
Do it.
incorporate it into it and be done with it? But
Because I don't want the staff to be tasked with more work than they're already doing. When volunteers can take care of it.
Yeah. And you have people who can write and can write persuasively and accurately and have graphic skill. So it's not, again, it's something that, I mean, if we can't do that, if we can't articulate in a very concise way and persuasive way why we're not doing something, then we should be doing that thing. And I wouldn't task the staff with much here at all.
Okay, so you're thinking that the subcommittee can do this without
The
staff?
subcommittee can bring it back to the board.
Yeah.
And the board.
Can we establish the subcommittee though, please?
Sure.
It's a task.
A task force.
You can call it what you'd like. I would prefer that it be, if it's a subcommittee, they tend to operate with a bit more authority. If it's a task, it's a narrow task. That's what those 2 board members, 3 board members are directed to do from the full board. So
I would ask, what does the board think of the document that's in front of you with a few minor changes and a graphic put on there? Are you generally in agreement with it?
As an ad, I have to say I'm not. It's too detailed and lengthy and historical, and it even assumes to a water person that makes a tremendous amount of sense. To a regular reader, I think you really need the graphics and to boil it down into 4 or 5 big points if you're talking about a display ad. But again, if you're talking about a nice page on the website, which really details the history, that this is great. And then, but I don't see that working I have to be honest, as an ad, I don't see that working.
I don't either. You gotta be short and sweet.
And I don't see this necessarily working as a letter to the customers either. I think it needs to be really simple and send them to a website that has complete information if they want more information. And most of them will not. 99% of them won't want more information, but that 1% will want more information. And you just put the website address there if you want more information. And just half as much information as what's on this letter is what I would think.
I agree. Yeah, this could be, I think, a great start for the website, and it could be edited and concise in a much smaller form for an ad in publication.
And honestly, I think there's much more of a need for a public relations, public outreach subcommittee at this point than there is for a Running Iron Ranch subcommittee, which I don't really see doing much for the next couple of years. Whereas I can see issues coming up where public relations and public outreach is going to be vital. I could see it on the wildland fire issue. I could see we're going to be putting pages on our website which say, what is PAWS doing about this? What is PAWS doing about that? And, but I don't want to task the staff with that. So I think we can do that. And the staff can critique it and they can say, Glenn, you're overstating this. Actually, the water sold is not the same as 2020. It's actually gone up 3%. You know what I mean? Because I can be big picture-y and I'm open to, expert critique. But I could see if Jim wants to, usually it's up to the president to form these subcommittees, but if you guys want to be a subcommittee, I'd love to see you as the subcommittee. I think you're a great partnership because you have the technical, historical background, the writing, graphic skill, and I think you'll come up with different, approaches for different media.
Does anybody have the viewing stats from PDGO on the PAWS website? How many people are looking at it?
I don't have that off the top of my head, Gene, but we can find out pretty easily.
Well, here's the problem with that, Gene. If you put something in the newspaper and it says, do you want to know about this? Go to this website. It will change the stats.
Yeah.
Because people will go to get that information. But they're not going to PAWS just because there's a website. They're only going to be going because you offered something to them that they want.
That's a good point.
Which is information about why PAWS is behaving the way it is.
To add to
I
that,
would just like to see this document with minor edits on it and a graphic to be given to the staff and put on the website post haste.
Yeah.
And then we can work with a display ad or whatever, as quickly as we can.
To add to that, we've got a limited amount of space on the bill itself with a place for statements or announcements. So we can condense that enough to
Put the website on it.
Well, we can put the website, or we could even potentially put some of the bullet points in.
And you could put one of those little things that you can scan with your phone. What are they called?
Well, I'm getting confused. Are we looking to put together a one-page letter to go to the customers via the paper or however we're gonna do it? Or are we looking to do a website? I'm confused about what we're doing now.
Both.
And we're doing both those simultaneously? We're gonna do one first and then do the other one second?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be in a particular rush on this. I think this public outreach and education, even though that word can be condescending, but it can be real too, is something that we're going to be doing over the next years. And I don't know that we necessarily have to get it out there quickly because, it's an election season. I think if there's to be an election, a lot of these points will be carried for and against by people running. We run the risk of, putting out public relations that, that could be accused of being politicking. I don't think it is, as long as we keep to the facts. But I think this is a very important subcommittee, and this outreach and education is important, but I don't think we have to rush it, really.
But again, it's not a subcommittee, it's a task.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to confirm, we're gonna do two of those things simultaneously. The subcommittee or task force, whatever you're calling yourselves, you're gonna do those two things simultaneously. They're gonna be two separate, they're gonna have overlap, but they're gonna be two separate items.
Yeah, you do the website first. And then you do the website first, and then you publicize that there's a website.
Okay.
That's the second stage.
With some catchy.
Go visit this website.
Okay.
Bullet points,
Here are a few bullet points. If you want more, go to the website.
And so again, it's gonna be the task force, where we call ourselves, are gonna put together the stuff that's gonna go on the website. So the only thing you're gonna do, it's gonna be for staff to do, is you guys gonna, here it is, and we're gonna copy it on the website. And then we're gonna send, then you're gonna send a letter saying, go to X, Y, and Z.
I have already sent it to Renee.
Okay,
I've sent her the information for the website. I've already sent it to her.
so the website's information is totally done.
Well, I got feedback from Renee and I got feedback from Glenn, but I thought we were gonna talk about it at this meeting, but it didn't get on the agenda. So it didn't get discussed by the board.
Okay.
Bill,
Well,
what pieces are, I received an email with a list of things you would like to talk about on the website. An early portion of this month, and then I received the piece you sent a couple weekends ago. So is the piece you sent a couple weekends ago, is that the actual content?
The piece I sent you was a link to an actual website mock-up. And the website had a picture of the office at the top of it.
Yeah.
Graph of our office at the top of that website. And that's what I sent you early in the month.
Bill,
Okay,
and I
and
think,
that's what.
I think I remember the one you're talking about, Bill. And then you had suggested links to several other pages for more detail, but those other pages weren't built yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I wanted to get feedback from you guys. Do you think all these links need to be here? And if they do, let's do a paragraph on each of those pages so that people can get more information.
Okay, but
Well,
those
maybe-
pages
maybe-
aren't built yet, right?
Gotten complete feedback on that.
Well,
Okay,
so
so-
the board, just to remember where we left off, on 12/12, the board directed Bill and Jean to work on a PR piece, something positive on what we're doing and where we've been and what we're planning. Something that can go in the billing statements, on the website, and in the newspaper. But I'm getting a sense that the board is thinking a little bit differently now, in that the website would be a bit more comprehensive, that the ad will definitely be much different than a letter that would go in the billing statement or on the website. Is that correct?
Well, that's my
That's-
preference.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I think we have three stories. We built up treatment capacity, we built up storage, and hopefully, where you want to shelve it, discuss the Stevens to Hatcher project, and then the success over the last quarter century with conservation and drought response. Those are like our three big, the three tent poles in the big tent. And then underneath that, you have Gene giving a great history of how we built up our treatment capacity, and then how we built up Stevens, and then the success in conservation, which is like remarkable.
Okay, so my understanding is that's done. You'd like some feedback, but you've done what he just described.
No,
No.
I just did the website, which is very similar to this.
But the
But
whole
I
board
like-
hasn't seen it.
I like what Glenn just said. I think those three pieces are not on the website yet.
Okay.
Well, it took us a little while to get, well, anyway, we did, as an update, we did ask PDGO to build us web pages so that we can do that, and that is available now.
Oh, good.
Right, Aaron?
It is, but what I'm trying to get at is the content's not available yet, or it is. I'm getting two different answers with that question.
It's not. It's not. Here's where it is right now. Bill created kind of like a website with links to other pages that haven't been produced yet. So I think that email needs to go out to the whole board so we can see it, and maybe he's too wordy, maybe he's not wordy enough, but we need to get, I think, that board input. But as far as beginning on the website right now, we could maybe start with this letter that you've got in front of you, because it's going to take, another meeting at least before we've all reviewed the more comprehensive web page that that Bill would be working on if so ordered. And I just see that, let's get started now. Let's put out what we've got in front of us with a graphic and a couple corrections. And if you want to change it to Dear Paws, thank you, Paws customer, tiny things like that. I don't know why that couldn't be approved and staff couldn't be given that direction.
Okay,
Just
so the
like that.
direction we're getting right now is Renee's gonna send out the content that Bill put together to all board members. And you guys will review it, and I guess at the next meeting in February, we'll discuss it.
February.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, if you start sending things out to all board members, then it's basically a public meeting. I think you need a subcommittee between these two gentlemen, and under no rush. You're building a water plant. Two other people are running the finances and all the compliance in the district. Let them produce it, and then when it's ready to be looked at, we'll look at it. If it's in a month, great. If it's in 6 months, great.
Okay, so it's not, I'm getting confused, so it's
Yeah.
not ready.
No.
Okay, he's saying no.
Could be.
Bill's saying yes.
No,
No,
I just, look, we just had a nice discussion, and Glenn and Jean brought up some really good ideas that aren't in what I sent Renee. So I would like to go back and
Okay.
add those elements.
So at this point, Renee,
Add those elements.
Renee should not send it out to everybody, let you make the corrections first.
And we look at them next meeting.
Yeah, next
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, like,
But not what you have now, you're gonna make corrections to
Yeah.
that.
right. We're gonna make some corrections.
Okay.
Okay, and then just to be clear, then what you have in front of you tonight kind of goes away. We don't need to worry about, no rush for the moment anyway.
I think
Is
most
that
of this
what
is,
you're saying?
most of this is already on the website, Gene. Most of that's already on the website.
Okay.
We're gonna change the approach slightly so that it's about the customer rather than about PAWS.
Yep.
That's,
Yeah, I haven't been to the website for a while. I apologize.
Right. And there's some, I have to say that there's going to be some synergies here, because once you get around to it, we might want to produce a really nice 2 or 3 page piece with graphics, PowerPoint, and statistics that support Stevens to Hatcher. And that may be something we want to put out in our room that people can pick up. That may be something when we invite the Southwestern Water Conservation Group to come take our tour of how we can really expand rural water usage, so we can hand to them. You know what I mean? So we can really kind of build it up as we need it, and it can have a lot of different uses. So, and I'd love to get Southwestern. I'd love to get Southwestern over in the spring, and let's show them Stevens to Hatcher.
I like that idea, Glenn, and I don't know who to ask, Justin, Aaron, or Renee. Could that 2 or 3 page promotional thing be included in the upcoming consumer confidence report? I know it would increase our printing costs and all that, but it's a
So
campaign.
you want it sent out at the same in the same envelope? I can look into that, Jean. I don't know I just have to look at the statute, see what I don't think it could be a part of the consumer confidence report, but I'll look and see if it can be included in the same envelope.
Yeah.
Because the consumer confidence report is Jean, it's provided by the state, and the content's limited to what they want in it for the most part. But I can look into that for you.
Well, it used to be called a newsletter, and the consumer confidence report was a part of that newsletter. We could sell ads, we could promote things. I don't know if any statutes have changed, but
Okay, I'll look into it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
okay. I think we have our marching orders.
You got some
Well,
more?
could we vote on if there's been a lot of talk about it being a formal subcommittee? Can we please vote on that so it can be documented?
Okay,
Sure. Do I have a motion?
I move that Bill and Jean form a subcommittee to do some marketing work.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
Do we want to make it public
Thanks for
outreach and public outreach and education?
Yes, that's what I want to make it.
Okay.
Thanks for volunteering me again, Bill.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, my audio just cut out.
All
I
right,
still have no audio.
motion carries. Can you hear me?
He's on
Yes, sir.
Yeah, besides that, they're supposed to donate $1,000. Did you hear that?
And now something about $1,000, what?
I
Say yes.
Don't say yes, whatever you. Hey, let's move forward. Okay. I want to thank y'all for doing this because that's good work.
Yeah.
All right, manager's talking point.
Easy one is, I have a meeting set up with Dutton Creek Ranch regarding the pipeline on Wednesday, the 11th. I'd like to keep it to one, because it's a single board member like to attend that meeting. I don't want to overwhelm them because I'm gonna go, Art's gonna go, Renee's gonna attend, and I have, a content person that can do, that understands the agricultural grants that are out there that's gonna go, so I don't wanna throw a whole bunch of people out there. Does the board want to send somebody?
I can do it. Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, 11th. February.
11 o'clock on Wednesday.
I would say that Jim's our most likable member.
I don't know.
Is that when they?
You're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out, but if you need a volunteer, I would volunteer.
That's
Fifth.
Whatever day, I don't have a calendar.
That's the 5th, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing, so we didn't look at the clarifications in the bylaws, so I'm gonna move forward with, I continue to interpret the bylaws the way I've been interpreting it, which is any direction given to staff has to be approved by the entire board. And it comes through me, and any change to the agenda.
No.
I missed about the last 60 seconds, but that's okay.
I think any direction to staff is generally understood because there's no explicit warrant to give any direction to staff in the bylaws. So I don't see that as being problematic. That's a correct interpretation. And certainly any direction to staff that requires staff, considerable or even modest staff time, or any engineering or consultant or legal costs, but the ability of a staff member to put an item on the agenda for discussion purposes, not really action purposes, is fundamental to the board, and there's no way to interpret that. I mean, do you need me to read it? I mean, it's very succinct and it's very clear, and you cannot read into that anything other than what it is, and it is fundamental to the powers of the board, and I do not think it has been abused. And I've looked back over 2 years of agendas, and we're pretty spare. I don't see many agenda items that are peripheral or marginal. So that one I can't, but I do think there's no any direction to staff, which, I mean, I've been on the board for 10 years, maybe longer than that. I don't direct staff. I've never called a lawyer. I get called more than I call, and often I call back because I volunteered to do something, and I'm asking for direction. So I mean, the other thing is for discussion, if somebody wants to put something on the agenda that's foolish, that's not going to last very long, because discussion can only consume time if the board wants to discuss something. There are natural limitations here. I mean, if I want to put on the next agenda that I really feel, owing to my Irish heritage, that we need on the morning of March 17th to put non-toxic green dye in the water. The only discussion will be people asking me if I'm on meds and if I'm not taking my meds, and that will be that. I just don't know. This is a trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist as far as the agenda. Because you will see today we had two items that, had they been put on the agenda.
Glenn, Justin, speak.
I think it is becoming, because we're getting asked to put things on the agenda and somebody else is asking us to take things off and staff doesn't. We've also been asked to put things on the agenda, which we believe has been voted on to not put on the agenda. So it is becoming,
So the problem is Justin has asked this to be put in the bylaws. We voted that we will discuss it in May, and now Justin is bringing it up again. And in his manager statement, the exact same thing that we voted to put off until May. You're bringing up the same subject again, Justin.
All I'm doing is clarifying that I'm going to continue to do it the way I've been, how I see it interpreted. Since we're not changing it.
You're deciding what's on the agenda?
Yes. No, Jim is deciding what's on the agenda, because that's how we've done it in the past.
Okay, I'm totally, because the bylaws say that any board member can add something to the
No, it
agenda.
doesn't. Tell me where it says that in the bylaws.
It's very clear.
It does not. It says any board member can request to be added. It doesn't say it can be added.
Request to whom?
The Jim, that's what I'm saying. That's how I'm interpreting it. That's how I've been interpreting
But
it.
it doesn't say Jim can deny it.
It does not.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
But it doesn't say he has to approve
Well,
it either.
why would it be in there if Jim can deny it?
Why would it just say request?
Why would it just say request if it doesn't need to be approved?
Well, then, what I'm saying is go through Jim, don't go through Renee.
Renee writes the agenda.
Go through Jim. That's how it's always been done in the
Renee
past.
writes the agenda.
It's the way it's always been done in the
Renee
past.
writes the agenda.
We're not changing the bylaws, so I'm doing it the way I interpret it, it's going through Jim. I don't want you talking to Renee.
Okay.
I don't set the agenda though. I take the notes along from, all the minutes, and I go back when I'm basically starting to draft the agenda, but we have pretty extensive conversations, the three of us. So it's not solely me or just me and Jim. It's the three of us. And then we confer and we say, did they say that? And I think they said that. And well, let's go back and go re-listen to the meeting. And I've done that. And so, and just to make sure that we're clear on our direction, and then we talk about it with Jim. So I think just to clarify that that's the process, as Bill and I discussed at length this morning.
Yeah, but there is nothing in our bylaws which gives, the presidential role is extremely limited. It's a weak presidency. It's not the president of PAWSD, it's the president of the board of directors. They're given no specific agenda setting capacity. I don't know how else to say any one board member may request that an item be placed on the agenda for the next regular meeting. It has not been abused. In the case of affordable housing, if one were to read the motion, the actual motion, that was approved, it had nothing to do with, we will put a gag order so there will be no further discussions of affordable housing because a couple of people don't want to discuss affordable housing. It was specifically that no further waivers will be approved before the next election. And I adhere to that, and that's fine. I support our policy, but if 3 members of this board wanted to take up affordable housing and vote, you know what? Great idea, not working out, too contentious. I want to move that we scuttle the policy. I vote against it, but 3 board members can do that today, because that wasn't our motion. Our motion was, we will not grant any more waivers until after the election, and I'll adhere to that. But to broadly read that the district manager then thinks that there shall be no discussions of any aspect of affordable or workforce housing because the district manager has decided, that is unsupportable. You know?
Well,
But I
truly
don't think
that happened. I don't think that was Justin's intent. I apologize, Gene, for interrupting.
Well, I'm just saying, and I think the thing that Bill was at least working towards proposing, I don't even support. And in fact, I have real questions about how we need to deal with some people who are misrepresenting us and our fees. So, but the fundamental right of a board member to simply say, put this on the agenda, it doesn't matter. If nobody is interested in the discussion or the issue, it gets absolutely no traction. This does not.
There's staff time that goes behind each agenda item, Glenn.
Not necessarily.
So if everybody doesn't have to funnel there, and so we've in the past we've always had it funnel through the president, because then ultimately there is direction coming from the board to then direct staff what to do with the agenda and the agenda items and the preparatory meeting.
Let me express a real concern. So we're going into an election. So I've been in this position. I've been one of the 2 people who the district manager and the district president decided were going to be gagged, and they were going to be set at the end of the table, and they were going to have to fight and get a 3rd vote to get anything on an agenda. It was the absolute most dysfunctional board this community has ever seen. That's what it was. And that's what happened. So what if we have an election and there's somebody who's elected who doesn't share the opinion of the other 4 people, or 2 don't share the solid opinion of 3 people? They can never even get an item on. You can gag them. You can say, you can't even open this up for discussion, not for staff time, not for lawyer time. That is so fundamentally undemocratic.
That is not
what would
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. And I lived through that as well, Glenn. And that's why I was proposing that we agree, and I know it slows the process down, but that the board agrees on what's going to be on the agenda at the prior meeting.
But why can't a dissident get something on the agenda? Again, just for discussion. I'm not even saying you can't command staff time other than working up the agenda summary sheet. And that's fine. I buy that. The first step is, I would like to discuss this issue. No board time. This is not, but people are afraid of speech. And I'm sorry, they are. They don't want to deal with it. And they don't want to deal with the community that has a different opinion. And everyone's like that. I'm like that. It's uncomfortable. As board members, we have to face discomfort. That's democracy. This is so deeply undemocratic. And it is.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I guess what I don't understand, and I agree with you somewhat, Glenn, there's a huge difference between discussion and action.
I agree.
What would be the point? What would be the point of discussing something that can't be acted on and is going to be in the hands of a new board? I guess I don't understand. You know, I understand somebody wanting to put something on the agenda, but if it's a moot point, why?
Well, how do you know it's moot until you discuss it? Do you have a preconceived notion of how you're going to vote? We're supposed to be coming to these meetings with an open mind, even though we do have certain preferences and fixes and ideological approaches, but we're supposed to have an open mind. I agree that you cannot command the staff, the lawyers, the consultants, any of that, but to put an item for discussion, and I don't even mind when we get around, if Justin wants to interpret this for discussion, I'm fine with that, because that's the first step. Because you say, listen, this is an issue, say like wildland fire. It's a big issue. How PAWS will be supportive and cooperative is going to be an interesting issue. So somebody wants to put that on for discussion. You have a discussion, and he says, you make your case, you have a good back and forth, and say, that's the point at which you say, I'd like to put this on the next agenda for action, which would require some staff support. And that's the point where the board can say, no, it's been a good discussion and I respect your opinion, but we don't think this is an item that we want to act upon right now. That's cool, but you cannot cut down the preliminary discussion. And 3 people cannot tell 2 people, and 4 people cannot tell 1 person, a board member, an elected board member, that they cannot discuss a topic. You know, they can do it sideways, just the way this has been sideways. They can do it through any other matters brought up by the board, but I would rather just adhere to, you know, our bylaws. So
I understand that. What I don't understand is, what is the purpose? There's a whole new board or some new board members that are going to miss out on this discussion in May. So I guess that's what I don't get is what.
Well, I'm just saying if the interpretation is being made as if this was approved, as if this is just a clarification, and this is not just a clarification, okay, then I have a real issue. If the interpretation is it'll be placed on for discussion purposes, that seems reasonable to me. That's kind of a reasonable interpretation, and a future board could actually change that to say, any one board member will request that an item be placed on the agenda for discussion at the next general meeting. Well, fine, that's fine. I don't mind setting up kind of structures which then use up more board time, staff time, consultants, lawyers. I'm cool with all of that. What I'm not cool with is an administration and 3 board members literally can gag 2 board members. That's obnoxious. And if that's the interpretation, okay, you do that interpretation, but I can tell you this one board member is not going to be, you know.
And that was not at all anyone's intent. Justin truly believed the May 23rd decision that was voted on and Bill abstained on was to not approve, not only not approve, but not even consider affordable housing until after the 2025 election.
But that wasn't the motion.
That has never been to gag anyone, and I would hope that you've known me long enough to know that that would not be my intent, and that I did not put forth a policy where the board, it would slow the process down, but put forth a policy where the board agrees on their next agenda at that prior meeting.
Well,
that was the intent. Right now,
what's in front of me is if I want to make a change to the bylaws, a member of the board, right, who the bylaws are principally concerned with, I have to ask for permission to have it put on the next agenda, and then we'll discuss it and discuss whether we may want to make an action item out of it, and then it could be voted on in 3 months. But a member of staff can have this put on the agenda to be approved in 3 hours. That's the reality of this.
Okay,
so all I'm saying is if the interpretation of 5 is any one board member may request that an item be placed on the agenda for discussion purposes at the next regular meeting, if that's okay, that's fine. A future board can choose to incorporate that or define that number 5 better. That's fine. I can live with that. That's fine. If it isn't,
we were proposing what we thought was a solution for board members' conflicted conversations.
Renee, Bill, we're trying to talk for 5 minutes. We need to let Bill talk.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Bill. Thank you. On January 23rd, I sent Renee an email. Hi, Renee. During the presentation at the VOCC, you noted that the CDC is paying $50 a year to PAWSD for fees properties that the county donated to them for workforce housing. That is probably a, would you please add an item to our January 30th meeting agenda to review as it relates to organizations building workforce housing? Thanks. Also, a family reached out to me yesterday. They hope to purchase a parcel and build a home, but are concerned about PAWSD fees, and I guess fees from every other government. I suggested that we have a waiver program, and I suppose it could apply to a private family building a house if they qualify by income. But I suggested they would have to have a deed restriction on the house in order to qualify. Your thoughts on that? I was asking Renee for some thoughts, and I was asking for her to put an item on the agenda according to the bylaws, which allow any board member to request an item on the next agenda. I got a response on the 27th of January, not from Renee, from Justin. Hey, Bill, as discussed at the last board meeting, any direction given to PAWSD staff by the PAWSD board needs to be approved by the board as a whole. This would include agenda changes. I do realize the bylaws specifically allow any one board member to request an item be placed on the agenda. However, it was previously agreed the district would table any discussion on workforce housing until after the May election. We have a lot of balls in the air right now, and I believe it would be best to stick with the plan regarding workforce housing and allow staff to focus on other issues for the time being. I talked with Justin, and I said, that's not what we voted on in May. We didn't vote on, we would never discuss workforce housing. And Justin didn't believe me, and Renee didn't believe me. So I went back and listened to the meeting. And here's the actual text of the meeting. So go ahead, Bill Hudson says, yeah, go ahead, make a motion to Paul. Paul says, Glenn, can you help me out? Justin says, I have it written down. You want to approve the waivers based on the 2022 resolution by the current board, and the current board will not entertain further waivers until after the 2025 board election. Glenn, the 2025 board election, question mark? I thought you said until next year. Paul, well, we can start taking applications January 1st, but we wouldn't actually decide on anything until the new board is in place. So we're not encumbering the new board in May of next year. Glenn, okay. Paul, so basically we're putting this thing on ice for a year. When somebody comes in, staff says, we've got availability possibly next year if you want to put an application in. But for this year, we're done. Gene, we're not kicking the can down the road. Paul, do I have a second? Gene, I guess for the sake of any further discussion, yes. Jim, okay, motion's been made and seconded. Can you repeat the motion? Who's the secretary writing this? Justin, approve CIF waivers based on the 2022 resolution, and current board will not entertain further waivers until the 2025 board election. Jim, but we're standing behind Glenn, the 3 habitat and the 10 for Emily. Jim, all in favor? Jim, Paul, Jean, Glenn vote aye. Bill says abstain. Jim says, all right, motion carried. The motion was that we wouldn't entertain any further CIF waivers until May. But Justin says in his email, it was previously agreed by the district, the district would table any discussion on workforce housing until after the May election. That's wrong. That's a wrong interpretation of what happened in May. We have a lot of balls in the air right now, and I believe it would be best to stick with the plan.
And that wasn't only my
Housing.
interpretation, it was also.
Don't interrupt me, please.
Fuck you, Bill. This is my resignation. I'm not dealing with this. Sorry.
Agreed.
Okay.
This is incredible. Like, you guys want me to run this district? Talk to staff and have them running around all over the place whenever you guys want
To
to.
put one fucking sentence on an
No,
agenda
that's not
is
it,
too
Bill.
much for you.
You guys are
Too
talking,
much for you.
you guys are running staff ragged
I asked her to put one sentence on the
this
agenda.
time, but there's other things as well. And I talked to Jim about too, and he had the same.
If you want to
interpretation.
resign, feel
He had the same,
free.
he had the same interpretation as I did.
Feel free.
He had the exact same interpretation I did.
So, listen, I'm sorry. I think I ran staff ragged at the end of December. Okay. But what I didn't do is I didn't make mistakes on the budget process of 140, 200, and 500,000 repeatedly that I asked to be corrected and weren't corrected. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to impose, people are butthurt, I'm not going to impose massive 30% rate hikes on customers based on an absolutely deeply unprofessionally flawed rate study. Okay? We worked through this, we made compromises. I'm sorry if that created a little extra work or even a lot of extra work. But you know, this board did certain things. Okay? It gave clear direction. No Title 31 costs in the 10-year rate study. What we get back is, you know, there are no Title 31 costs in those first 2 years. Of course, that doesn't matter in a 10-year rate study where everything is interrelated. It's like Daryl Cotton's, no peeing section in the pool. Okay, so that was ignored. Then we went through, and I spent 10, 15 hours. I don't get paid, by the way. People here are pretty well paid, and they deserve what they're paid. And we went through line by line. Every capital investment program, we discussed it. We decided certain percentages that were going to be ascribed to growth and certain percentages that were going to be ascribed to rates. And when it came to do the 10-year rate study, you know what happened? It was thrown away. Okay, and the 10-year rate study was just whatever whoever wanted to ascribe. So the board is just ignored. I would love not to bother the staff. If maybe sometimes the staff would kind of adhere to decisions that we've made. So I appreciate frustrations on both sides. But if, Justin cannot actually, I think the compromise was right there, that to put items on that involve no staff time, minimal summary sheet, no legal time, no engineering time, just for discussion. But that compromise even can't be made, then maybe he's reached the point where he really does need to go. And I wish him all the best, and I thank him for all his service.
I'd like to say, continuing on in this discussion, everybody in this room right now, we are here to represent our ratepayers, and we need to be as professional as possible in how we're speaking to one another and how we're discussing this issue. Because yelling, cursing is not beneficial to our ratepayers, and it doesn't make us look like a very professional organization. So let's tone this down a little bit. And if we're going to continue this discussion, let's continue it, but let's continue it with a little bit more professionalism and understanding for each other.
Alex, we tabled this discussion. Justin wanted it.
I'm not
Justin wanted
disagreeing.
the discussion.
I'm not disagreeing
He
with you.
wanted the discussion.
All I'm asking is let's remember the purpose of us all being here in this room tonight.
We tabled
It's
it.
for our ratepayers.
We tabled it.
So
We tabled it and Justin wanted it.
I
So we're
understand.
giving it to him.
I understand. I understand where you're.
So,
And I don't think I raised my voice, and I think I was willing to make all sorts of compromises and even give broad room for interpretation. Somebody came into the room spoiling for a fight. They stood up. They uttered, I'm not uttering like really gutter profanities at people. Never have in this boardroom. Never will. Justin did. Okay? And I do, to some extent, I understand that I created work for the staff at the end of the year. But I created work at the staff at the end of the year because extremely large, $100,000, $500,000 mistakes were made. $10 million of revenues was not calculated, was not included in the rate study, which, let's be clear, originally this rate study was going to be 50% first year, 50% second year. And at that meeting, I said something like, I'm going to crawl over glass before that happens. And it wound up being 30 and 10. And I'm very happy, well, or less depressed, that our customers saw a 40% increase rather than a 125% increase. And if that has hurt people, and if I don't know what to say, my responsibility is to the customers. Okay, and I'm sorry that I threw a piece of paper. But you know what? I worked on that 80-page plan, and we went through it, and that was just thrown away. And you know, if you had to hustle in the last week to actually go back into that spreadsheet and put those percentages in, that's because you didn't pay the board the basic respect in the first place of actually putting the board directions in that in that plan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it got hectic, okay? But the idea that putting a discussion item on a, you know, it's a MacGuffin, okay? It's like the Maltese Falcon. Nobody cared about the Maltese Falcon. There was a whole mix of like contention around it. There's a lot of contention here, and this idea of just putting on, you know, that's just an excuse to blow up and quit. And if that's where you are, I'm sorry that you're there, and I thank you for all your service, and we'll just have to try and move forward.
No, we're move forward to that.
Can I finish my
Jim is
presentation?
still in order here.
Can I please finish my presentation?
Okay.
Which was interrupted by Justin, because I pointed out that he misinterpreted what happened in May, and he told me I couldn't put something on the agenda in violation of our own bylaws. He made the decision, not Jim. Justin made the decision that I was not going to be allowed to put a discussion on our agenda according to our bylaws because he didn't want it on there. So,
Well, I interpret that a little differently.
I emailed Renee on the 28th of January. Renee, can you please give me a call? I have questions about the PAWSD agenda. Thanks.
Was that addressed to me, Bill?
Return call, no return call, no return call. Then I get an email from Renee, last minute email that says that she had put something together. Doesn't mention anything about the website layout that I worked on for hours and sent to her. I started to feel like the staff doesn't want to work with me. Even though I'm on the board, I started to feel like the staff wanted to stifle anything that I wanted to finish working on. When I was appointed to work on it by the board, I felt like I was being dismissed in violation of the bylaws. Bad interpretations of what the board has decided. It's very upsetting to me. I'm sorry that my voice is a little loud because it was very upsetting to have a person that works for me, person that is my employee, tell me, no, Bill, you cannot put this on the agenda because I'm misinterpreting what happened in May.
Wait. Now, there's something you said that's not right. He works for the board. Board makes, he doesn't work directly for
That's on the bylaw.
you.
He does.
But he does not work directly for you. That's a mistake. He
And
and
you
the
can
board's
read
got
this.
to make a
You
decision.
can read this right here.
I heard you.
And you can say, who's working for who?
he runs this, he is hired as a manager of PAWSD.
Yes.
So he got the almighty authority. And we want, this wasn't brought it up from the board. We can do it next week if you say we want it on the board. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna meet, next month, excuse me. So why don't you put it on the,
Because he wanted to clarify that he's going to refuse anything that I send him because he wants it to be refused. That's what he just brought up.
No, Bill,
I mean,
Bill,
I
Bill,
think
I
there was
think
a
you're-
reasonable compromise there. I really do. I think Justin came in and I can appreciate the level of frustration. And it was probably a mistake, by the way, in retrospect, we should have just hired a construction manager to oversee the completion of Snowball. I appreciate trying to wear 2 or 3 hats, and there's a level of frustration. But that was a mistake we made. We do have a staff that constantly volunteers to do more, much more than, say, just putting a discussion item on an agenda. I think that's just an excuse to blow up and quit, and I actually respect that. I don't even care about profanity. I was being a little high horsey there. And if he reconsidered, I'd be fine with that. But if what's best for his life is quitting, then we just move on from there with a ton of respect. But, you know, that's where we are.
I've got to say that I think I believe maybe what Justin did was to enforce what he thought was best for the district. And again, I'll say it again, discussion is way different than action. But what in the world is the use of any discussion on that specific subject when a new board will be seated a few months from now? It would be of no value.
But that doesn't matter, because that would be Justin's interpretation, and that will be his interpretation even with the new board. And that's fine.
But that's what we
have
paid.
that discussion. You seem to be Gene, you seem to be dismissing the value of a board member coming to the board with a discussion item and discussing openly an issue with the 4 other board members and seeing, at this point, if the board, every idea starts with someone.
I am not discussing that at all, Glenn.
Well, but
not
I'm saying
dismissing.
right, so.
Okay, so let's say next month you come to him, you call Renee or Justin and say, I want these 3 things on the board. And I call and I say, I want 2 on the board, and Bill wants a couple of others. Shouldn't there be a funnel to say?
And that's a whole different thing. That's just custom reasonability, saying, hey, we've got a long agenda and we've already got these items. Can I just put it on the next agenda? And that's fine. That's cool.
No, you're saying that every board member's ideas must be adhered to, and I don't know that I agree with that completely.
I didn't say must.
You can't have it.
To. And like I said, well,
if you come with 3 and I come with 3 and Bill comes with 3,
and if somebody else comes
you're
with
discussing it, the board.
And if someone comes up with 1,700, sure. When has that ever happened? When has that ever happened? You're searching
what if
for
they
a problem.
come up with 7?
Gene, I looked through the last 2 years of agendas. You do that. You can easily do that on our website. Scroll through the agendas. Try and find a few that are extraneous or useless or wastes of time. There are almost none. I can't even find any that are wastes of time. We don't really festoon our agenda. So you're searching for a problem that isn't there, and you're looking for an excuse to get mad and quit. That's what I'm interpreting this as, and I sympathize with that. But that's what happened here. And I knew it was happening. I even sent an email this afternoon saying that I knew it was happening, or hinting that I knew it was happening, because I didn't want somebody to make a threat that I hate, or make an action that I really am sad about, thinking that it was going to be effective, because it's not. So don't hold yourself hostage. I respect that he's not doing that. He's frustrated, he's reached a point, and he's quitting. And we have to thank him for his service and move on. With the understanding that, if he
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute recess, okay? This is getting way out of hand. And all it's about is something, Bill, I beg your pardon. I can't see that why that's making such a big deal that we had to bring it up this month, because we're not gonna do anything till the new board's on. So what are we gonna discuss it for?
Jim.
Yeah.
We voted to table this. And our manager countered you. He took the power away from you.
Well,
You let us table this. We voted to table this, and you let the manager take over the power away from the board. Don't you understand what's happening here?
No, I understand. He is the manager. He has hired the
And
manager.
you let him
He
take
do-
away the
He
power of the
doesn't
board.
work for you individually. He works for the board.
He
Did you
takes away the
understand?
power from you.
That's all right.
That's all right, okay.
That's all right,
That's
because
interesting.
it's all right. If we already voted, go back to that we was gonna put it for the board in May. And you had a new board, and then they can start it. So what's wrong with that?
What's wrong is your manager is taking your power away.
How?
He just did it. We tabled the item, and then he brought it up and demanded that we talk about it. We tabled the item. We voted to table the item, and he demanded that we talk about it. He took your
Why
power
did he
away.
demand? Why did he demand to talk about it? Did somebody ask him?
He wanted to be more powerful than the board. That's
No,
why.
you're not answering my question.
Steve's question.
Why did it get brought up? Was he requested by somebody to?
Ask him.
I'm
Ask
sorry?
him. Ask him.
So you're saying it got brought up tonight because of Justin?
He brought it up after we tabled it. After the board voted to table it, Justin brought it up anyway.
He was
Tonight, you
asking
mean?
for clarification, Gene, during the man talking points.
Okay, my audio was cutting in and out. I apologize.
I would like to apologize to everybody, my outburst, and to you specifically, Bill. I was just trying to get clarification on, this is how I interpret it, so this is how you want me to move forward. That was what I was trying to get to. On the not putting your item on the board, I didn't do that in a vacuum. I did discuss that with Jim.
Yeah. And the reason I said, let's don't do
At
it,
what time of day did you discuss it with Jim?
I don't know.
I don't need it.
In the morning? The afternoon?
Discuss it.
Because you sent it at 6 o'clock in the morning to me.
Well, I probably discussed it in the evening before then.
Well, I'd like to know.
I don't know when.
Yeah, I'd like to know. But you don't remember,
Remember, no, but I had the discussion.
because you didn't mention Jim
No, I
in
didn't.
here at all.
I
It
didn't.
was, I think. Read it. There's no mention of Jim.
Okay.
There's no saying I talked to the president and he thought.
Are you saying I'm lying? I didn't talk to Jim?
I'm saying you didn't talk to Jim when you wrote this.
I talked to Jim about that. Should we put that on the agenda?
Yeah, he
Oh,
called
I
me.
know you did. I know you did.
Yeah.
I'm saying you forgot when you talked to him,
I didn't
because
talk to
it
him.
doesn't say anything about Jim in here.
So let's all back off. Can you put yours on the agenda for this next meeting? And,
Justin wants clarification.
Can I make a suggestion?
No,
no,
sorry,
Work session, work session.
no. So why can't we do this, what you want to do, the next meeting?
Justin wants a clarification.
Well,
Justin, do you need clarification tonight?
I think I got my clarification.
I've got.
That's a moot point, Bill.
It's muted. Like permission to let him back. in the
yeah,
conversation.
put it back in. Glenn, can you hear us?
I'm unmuting. I'm just saying if I could take a step back, appreciate maybe some of the emotional absurdity of the last 15 minutes, which I've contributed to. Cite the great philosopher Clemenza from The Godfather, when he told Michael, yeah, these things have to happen every 5 or 7 years. Personally, I don't see the problem with putting a request from a board member on the agenda for discussion, not involving any staff time. you want to give that interpretation, that's fine. I think that's a reasonable compromise. I don't even see an item necessarily going on. So, everybody may be like arguing over MacGuffins. Rewind. If Justin isn't just sick of everything he has to do and just wants to leave, and just treat it with that. And of course, board members who I do not think have done this, don't put on 2, 3, 4 items. I was trying to go through and see the ones that I've requested myself, and it's never been an issue for 10 years. We're arguing over something that's never been an issue. And so if you want to give that interpretation, that I'm going to put them on for discussion purposes only with no staff support until a majority of the board, having heard you, says, yeah, we want to put some staff support behind that. That's fine. That's like a reasonable approach to this. And we can chalk up all of the histrionics and emotions to it being a pretty intense time in the district. And we don't put the genie back in the bottle. We kind of respect everybody's frustration and just move forward, understanding everyone's frustration, and see if we can't just continue to make a go of this thing. I'm happy to do that. I'm honestly kind of embarrassed with myself that I really got annoyed at using the F word. I mean, because it's it's the furthest thing. I actually appreciate people that express their emotions honestly. But so if Justin really wants to go and he really doesn't want to work with us and he doesn't want to wear 10 hats and we have to find somebody else to take over Snowball and then look for internal sources, and if not internal sources, somebody that has to run the district, we'll go through all that. I'd prefer not to, because I do think Justin's great, but I do differ with him on this issue right here on the free speech and the need for the foundation of board discussion. And I think that's reasonable on my part.
Can we discuss it at the next meeting then?
Well, but I'd like to know if Justin is open to being at the next meeting, if we kind of say, oh, okay, we had a bit of a Donnybrook, but every close group of people get contentious and have Donnybrooks, and I don't know if you grew up with brothers, but I did, and I can't count the number of fights. So we had a good old-fashioned Donnybrook, and now we'll put it back together, understanding each other's frustration. That's all I'm recommending.
Well, and Justin may not need to be at the next meeting. We could discuss personnel issues in executive session or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying it's getting late, and
I'm just saying I'm accepting a resignation with total respect if that's what Justin really wants to do. If this compromise of interpreting that as putting it on for discussion purposes only without any dedication of any staff resources or other resources, that's actually one I would run with even if we revisit it. Because we have to come up with an interpretation that Justin's comfortable with in 3 months. We can't just kick the can down the road. And that would be mine, is that we don't even have to revise it if that's our understanding, is that any board member can request to put an item on for discussion purposes only with no staff support until the board says, hey, that's a great idea. We will direct staff, right? That's why we direct staff. It's not I direct staff.
Well, then let's put it on the agenda for discussion and action next meeting.
I think I'm happy with, if that's Justin's, if he can live with that interpretation, I'm cool with that. And I'm actually, I think.
Well, the only interpretation he has to live with is what the board decides on at the next meeting, right?
Point of order. Point of order.
Okay. Bill's got something to say again, please. Bill?
Glenn and Jean have really good ideas, but we just did a vote. This board voted to table this item until May. So Jean's suggestion that we put it on the next agenda, this item on the next agenda, is inappropriate when this board just voted to table it.
Right, but
Now-
Bill, my point is that Justin has given an interpretation, which the initial one,
I'm in the middle of talking.
okay. I'm sorry, my audio is spotting in and out, and I haven't heard people that are, apologies.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so we just voted
Okay,
that we're not gonna discuss this. We're gonna leave the bylaws as they are.
right.
And they say any board member can request something put on the agenda. It's not any further clarified than that.
Okay,
We voted not to discuss it.
right.
For some reason, Justin had to discuss it and has to discuss how he interprets that. And I would like to clarify for Justin that it means any board member can put something on the agenda just requesting it. I would like to clarify that.
Yeah, we voted on that. I voted no against it. Gene voted no against it, and there was 3 for it.
Yes.
That's
there were
right.
3
Oh,
for it.
it was passed, yes.
So I'm making a motion in regard to Justin's comment that any board member can place something on the agenda by requesting it, and it will not be rejected by the district manager or the president. That's my motion.
So you're making a motion specifically on that, and then as far as anything that requires board activity or requires staff activity needs to be voted on by the board.
I would make that part of my
Okay,
motion.
I'll second that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think that discussion is the first step. It's the first step in every bit of progress we've ever made as a species. And you have to, and this is the fundamental right of a board member. It does, you can bring up something so dumb, and I have done it on occasion, where there is really no discussion because the 4 members kind of look at you like a German shepherd with their head cocked. Okay, it's a 20-second discussion because nobody really wants to discuss your idea. Move on. But sometimes you come up with a decent idea and the board seizes on it and says, yeah, we want to put some resources behind that one. And that's great. And that's the value of a board member being able to put an item on the agenda for discussion with no calling upon no resources.
Lance,
Yes,
Okay.
that's the motion.
that's the motion.
Without requiring resources other than placing it on the agenda.
Right,
That's a
Right.
resource.
okay. All right, we're gonna vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not
Okay.
sure I understand. I'm going to vote no for the moment, and I'd like to explain that next month.
So we'll proceed further like that. As long as it doesn't cost
Require
more
staff time
staff time,
or lawyer time.
lawyer time. Okay. We'll go from there till the next meeting. All right, motion passed. Okay,
Justin, we're still in the manager's meeting area, points.
right. So go ahead, Justin, with more stuff.
Again, I apologize, everybody. I got clarification. That's really what I was requesting, was clarification.
You got it, you're fine.
Can I ask you, how did that meeting go with the fire department? And, is there any progress made or?
So I had a meeting today at 3 o'clock with the fire department, the fire chief and PLPOA. Due to the fires in LA, they're reasonably concerned about fires happening here. And so we discussed how we can communicate better with the fire department. I did explain to them that per our rules and regs, and it's been that way probably since the beginning of time, that we do not guarantee fire flow. We certainly want to be able to fight fires if it happens. And then we discussed the possibility of working together to start testing hydrants. We're a long ways from that. The issue with testing hydrants is we have 3,000 some hydrants. Finding the manpower to go out and test those is going to be difficult on our end and the fire department's end. So we're not quite sure how to do this, but we're going to proceed forward with discussions on what we can possibly do. Appreciate it.
That's good, thank you. What else do you got?
I think that's about it.
Okay, Justin, can I bother your engineering self?
Certainly.
Oh, you know, I'm the engineering dummy, but when I think about like our production capacity uptown is what, like 4 million gallons a day, 4.5 maybe, which is really only about 12 acre feet. And my sense is that if we had a real extensive wildland fire, the first thing our customers are going to do, and it doesn't matter what you tell them, is they're going to go outside, they're going to turn on the hoses, and they're going to soak every bit of vegetation in their houses for a half hour. So I'm wondering, do we want to discuss with them how they could establish like plug and play capacity? So instead of having 2 or 3 or 4 acre feet a day, they can access 6,000 acre feet of water that's close to most of the houses? Is that, I mean, it seems like, why would you rely on, I understand hydrants for the fire here and fire there, fire here, fire there, but if there's like a wildland fire that's threatening a whole perimeter, it'd be nice to be able to just have set lines with plug and play capacity to pull the water right out of the lakes or something like that. And that's their deal, but we could support them by saying, hey, you can use our water however you can most effectively use it.
I'm not sure if I totally understand the question.
Right.
So more or less, you can get a 2,500 gallon per minute pump on a trailer. You could have that staged somewhere in a fire situation, be able to pull raw water out and be able to almost,
Well, yeah,
the capacity
so-
of patcher in a day.
for instance, when the Plumtop fire happened, I don't know, 3 years ago, whatever, the fire department and the Forest Service, approached us and asked if they could pull water from the lake, mainly dipping water, and we gave permission. We didn't want them using that at Hatcher, because Hatcher's our main water source, but the other reservoirs we certainly did. They ended up using it from Hidden Valley Reservoir, but that is allowable to add a very high capacity pump somewhere on our system. The problem with that is if you pull too much water out too fast, it can collapse pipes, it create vacuum and collapse pipes. So
Okay.
it's probably not
Okay.
a feasible thing to
Okay.
do because of that very reason.
Okay. Hmm.
But the fire department can pull water out of the lakes.
Well, yeah, they called it, it's our water, so I guess they probably have to ask permission, and they did. I mean, it's a quick phone call and we have no, yeah. But I assume we could probably say no if we wanted to. I don't know if that would be a very good idea to say no, but I assume we could. Because it is.
That wasn't the question. I'm just, they have the capacity to do it.
Oh, yeah, they have the equipment to do it, yeah.
Can we give them blanket capacity?
Certainly, but like I said, we could do that. Like I said, I don't really want to pull them out of Hatcher,
Yeah, I understand. that
Because-
concern.
a lot of Hatcher, we got other reservoirs,
Yeah, the ones we don't use.
for aesthetic purposes, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that'd probably be.
Lake
And
Pagosa-
truth be known, they would need hundreds of more fire trucks and hundreds of more personnel to put out a fire of any, of LA size
Right.
or even something smaller than that. So I don't believe the fire hydrants went dry in LA. I believe so many people turned on water at the same time, it lowered the system pressure. And that's just my personal opinion, but we've always worked well with the fire department. The fire department even got our insurance service officers rating lowered, which lowered our premiums because they got good at sucking water out of the river and ponds and lakes. So I don't think this is a real big issue.
Yeah, if there's a major wildland wildfire on the perimeter of town, I don't think there's any prep that PAWSD can do that would really have a big effect on nullifying a fire of that type of magnitude.
Yeah, if you get a wildland urban interface on Hill Circle, it's game over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussions? Renee? You got something for us?
Justin, did you want to touch on the freezing infrastructure? Alex had requested that you speak to that.
Yeah, I guess we should discuss that. Specifically, 2 weeks ago, even though it's still going on, when we had the very, very cold temperatures and no snow, we've had a significant amount of water, meter pits freezing. Um, and now we've actually had a couple of water, or at least one water main freeze. And it's just due to cold temperatures and no snow. And there's no real rhyme or reason. We're finding them freezing on ones that are shallow at 2 or 3 feet, and we're finding them freezing at 5 and 6 feet.
Wow.
It appears to be primarily from lack of use. You know, I don't know if you guys got the email that we kind of set up, so that if you're concerned about freezing, trickle your water to keep that moving. We are noticing, typically it's, you know, we're having a big problem with the short-term rentals because there's nobody in there and it's vacant. Then the weekend comes and everybody's there and it's froze up because the water is not going through the pipe. We've had a couple that we've had their systems froze up 3 or 4 times in a week. And apparently they don't want to turn their water on because they don't want the water bill to go up, but it's causing a lot of problem. It takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to take the water out, put it back together, typically replace parts in the meter because it destroys part of the meter when the ice gets in there. We'll probably need to have a discussion for future years that I think when somebody's meter freezes up, we go out and fix it, but we need to let them know you need to trickle your water while this is going on. If this happens continuously without you, we may want to start charging for that service because it's, we have one employee that I think has 130 hours of overtime this pay period just because those guys are working
A 2-week pay period?
yeah. Because those guys are just working. I mean, we had 30, I think Monday night, we had 30 meter pits freeze up in one night. And like I said, it's taken 1 to 2 hours to fix each of one of those. So you know, do the math, it's a lot, and that's in one night. So
It's been consistently 20 to 30 per night.
yeah, and so it's been a real struggle. Me personally, my sewer line froze up. I've been here 10 years, I've never had that happen. So it's just, it's been cold and it's been problematic.
Keep trickling.
It floods more, yeah.
Warm water. You know, several years ago, I had a meeting with, up in Idaho with the mayor of, Ruidoso and one of her deals, compadre. And anyway, when they got home, these second homes, water was actually running out of many, many houses. That's the way they'd find them. They'd go around and see water coming out. And they, of course, they didn't have no keys to get in, but it was a disaster. Just, it's kind of a setup like we've got right now, so.
I honestly think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg, because, you know, a lot of our houses are empty, and I think they're frozen now, so there's no water coming out. I think when they thaw, you're gonna see the same thing, and I think we're gonna see, I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg. I think it's gonna be really problematic when it starts to warm up.
Do we need, that brings up a question, do, we need to notify these, is there any way to notify these second homeowners that this may be something that's gonna happen?
Well, we sent out an email to everybody.
Yeah.
And we have emails to them, and I think we have emails to most of our customers.
We do, yeah, we do. We're putting messages in Zoom statements, we're sending out letters. I have a program going forward that we do this every year because it seems to be something that we may have to deal with in the future. So.
Oh, yeah, but this is the worst year by far of freezing.
Right.
Of freezing meter pits.
Okay.
Substantial amount.
Renee, what else you got?
I've got a quick comment. Oh, go ahead, Renee.
Go ahead, Jean.
Well, last year, I had the opportunity to go up to Snowball Water Plant, and Justin gave me a quick tour, and pretty much all that was there was the foundation and a bunch of rebar and the electrical conduit sticking out. I had the opportunity to bring a couple of engineer friends of mine who are in their 80s up there a couple of weeks ago. I was blown away. That plant is just amazingly complex. Looks like it's going well. Got a lot of good comments from those engineers, and I think the end result is going to be something PAWS can really be proud of. So kudos to staff, especially Justin, and the contractor and everybody who's been working on that, because It is just, it literally blew me away.
I could bring up where we're at with the plant. They are about a month and a half behind, so I don't know if everybody recalls, it was supposed to be done October of this year. It's looking like it's more December of this year unless they can catch up, which, again, if I was putting money on it, I'd say it's probably gonna be June of 26. The building is up, it's decked, starting the roof on the 7th, and it shouldn't take very long to get that in. They're in the process of putting windows and doors in now, so it should be fully dried in by the end of next month. They are also moving forward with the DAF system. They haven't started on the PAWSD system yet, and a lot of the internal piping, the raw water piping, the finished water piping, all that's going in as we speak, and it is proceeding along. But when we get down, they built a building. It was a big task. There's a lot of concrete in that building. But my gut feeling is when they get into the nitty gritty of starting to get all the technology in there and the pipes, it's gonna slow down. So I would still, hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm still gonna, if I was gonna put money on it, I'd say it's gonna be middle of next year before it's done. But they may get done. We're hoping it gets done this year because we are actually under a compliance schedule to have to by the first of the year.
That's what I asked.
If we don't get it done, we're gonna have to go to CDPHE and throw ourselves on the mercy of.
Okay, do they have a penalty if they don't get it done by a certain time? Okay.
There's liquidated damages, but liquidated damages go into pretty much all construction contracts of this magnitude, but they're very hard to collect on. You really have to prove that you were damaged, even though the liquidated damages in the contract are pretty clear. If you don't, and I don't remember what exactly what these things are, but if you say something like, if you don't get it done by this date, we both agree that the damages that PAWSD will incur is $2,000 a day. I'm making up that number because I don't remember what the number is. But they're not just gonna pay that. It's gonna go to court and it's gonna come down to, can you justify those damages? And at the same time, they're gonna be arguing that the reason they were late was out of their control. So it's very hard to, yes, answer your question, in theory, yes. In reality, it's hard to collect it.
But they're not gonna cost us more money. That's.
No.
Okay.
No, we have a guaranteed maximum price, so the only thing that they can charge us more for is approved change orders.
Okay. Yeah. That's the main thing, I think.
Yeah.
Did Renee, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody, any more board members who've got any more questions for? I think I've said enough.
I was just going to ask follow up, but like I do sense a frustration with workload, the number of hats people volunteer to take on, and I really do appreciate that. Like with Snowball, is this still construction management? Is this still a hat you want to have completely? Do you want to hire somebody to assist you with that? The construction management and district manager thing? I mean, I'm assuming you're still a district manager. I'm hoping you are. And if you are, do you need, say, an assistant who can,
I thoroughly enjoy the construction process.
Okay.
Not be the last thing I'd want to give up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you're leaning on Renee a fair amount on managerial and Aaron as well, aren't you, Justin?
Probably more than is fair.
Right.
That's what I assumed.
So then, do we need, in addition to, I mean, you're throwing all your energies, really, or need to really, on this, largest project in the, in the county's history. Then do we need some engineering help with the rest of the district so you can focus on that? Do we need to start looking at getting an engineer for all of the other tasks and compliances and, just think about it. I'm not saying, but,
I'd like to sleep on that a little bit.
Yeah,
Right.
between Renee and Justin at the next meeting is what are some things that as a board we could do to remediate some of the stress and as Glenn says, all the hats that you guys are wearing, and maybe there's a hat we could take off that would make you guys, your job a little bit more enjoyable and, you know.
Like Aaron. Aaron looked at, volunteered to like jump into this quick, intensive, revision and reconsideration of a 10-year rate study to get it ready for February 1st. And I'm like, well, I'm impressed with that, but this can be for next year. We kind of have the rates set where they're going to be this year, and we can take a whole year, and we don't. I appreciate that willingness to kind of like, in addition to everything else, redouble or triple an effort on something. But I think I was clear that no, this we can start with this in March or April or May and revisit it. So not.
On your point about more engineering, when we get the sewer deal, that may be where you might need some more. I don't know.
We will have an RPR for Vista. We received a grant
All right, great.
to pay for half of it.
That's wonderful. So it's enough, it'll make a difference. I guess.
Well, they're gonna be overlapped. They're probably gonna get done about the same time.
Yeah.
They're gonna be starting on that. Matter of fact, Jim, you just today signed
Signed
to get them started on that.
Right.
So that's gonna be happening, and the hope is to have that done at the end of this year as well.
Right.
So they're gonna be running some, because we discussed that, me doing that as well, that seems a little much. Both of those, so.
Plumber, yeah.
Will be running. And so it won't be as costly as it was. The problem with the RPR work, when we looked into it at Snowball Plant, is the only people that bid on it were outside the community, so we're paying a fortune on per diem and lodging.
Yeah.
The bids on that came in from 1.2 to 1.9 or 1.8 million. For that, and a lot of that was paying somebody in from outside. My guess is with Plumber, they'll probably be doing it with Steve Omer mostly, and he lives here, so that brings down the price.
That'll be good. And Gene has been talking to the guy that owns this property around here. And one of these days, maybe we'll have something from that guy that owns the property, see if he can sell some right.
Well, that guy is, at my suggestion, I guess, is simply waiting for the engineering studying that Plummer and Associates is doing for us. If that comes out good and we should go the downtown route, then we're pretty much done with them. But if it looks like it's going to be economically unfeasible, that guy has said he is interested in being kept in the loop. So I think this is just my suggestion, is that the board should wait for that Plummer report and then kind of decide from there what the board wants to do as far as that property.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Anyway.
Anybody else got anything we need to discuss? If not, can we have a adjournment and
So moved.
and have a little more love in our next meeting, please?
We can do a group podcast, we can go out.
No coffee.
I will second.
Okay. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Yeah,